With the Minnesota Timberwolves recently making the playoffs for the first time since 2004, the Sacramento Kings now hold the title for the longest playoff drought. They haven't made the playoffs since 2006, and there's not a single player from that roster who's still in the NBA. They've all been long gone. Now, usually when we say a team is, quote, rebuilding, it takes maybe a couple of years of being bad, drafting some good players with high picks, and then getting back into playoff contention. But that has not been the case with the Kings. How's it going, ladies and gents? My name's Andy, and today we're going to take a look at why the Sacramento Kings have been rebuilding for over a decade, yet still haven't made any significant progress. First, let's go back to 2006, the last time the Kings were in the playoffs. They recently traded away Chris Webber, which marked the end of that era, but they still had a decent team. They finished 44-38 and got in as the 8th seed and put up a good fight against the Spurs, which included an amazing Kevin Martin game winner. They would go on to lose the series in 6 games. In the next 2 years, they tried to remain competitive, finishing the season winning about 30 to 40 games, but quickly realized that it was time to move on from this core of players. So, by 2008, they traded away Peja Stojakovic and Mike Bibby, and entered into their first era of rebuilding. In the 2008-09 season, the Kings were awful. They won 17 games that year and were subsequently rewarded with the 4th overall pick in the 2009 draft. A draft that turned out to be ridiculously good, featuring multiple stars in Blake Griffin, Steph Curry, James Harden, DeMar DeRozan, heck, even Drew Holiday. It was a very good draft, one of the best in recent memory. With the 4th pick, the Kings selected Tyreke Evans, who made an immediate impact on the team. In his rookie season, he put up averages of 25 and 5, joining LeBron, Oscar Robertson, and Michael Jordan as the only other rookies to have done that. He took home the Rookie of the Year. That's a great group of guys to be with, and after his rookie season, Tyreke had some high expectations. Also, in this season, the Kings made the first of many terrible trades during this rebuilding era. In the previous season, a 24-year-old Kevin Martin was averaging nearly 25 points per game, and his playstyle was a pretty good fit next to Tyreke. He was a pure scorer who played off the ball very effectively. Unfortunately, the Kings were concerned with his history of injuries because he had a lot of nagging injuries despite being so young. As a result, halfway through the 2009-10 season, and they traded Martin to the Houston Rockets for Carl Landry. Needless to say, it was a bad trade. Landry would stay on the team for 1.5 seasons and then bounce, while Kevin Martin would continue to be a very efficient 20 points per game scorer. Fast forward to the 2010 draft, and with the 5th overall pick, the Kings selected DeMarcus Cousins, an absurdly talented center who most scouts believed was the best overall player in the draft, but the problem was his attitude. It was a huge concern. And for the most part, those scouts would be correct. Cousins' first couple of years were rough. He even led the league in technical fouls for 3 straight years. He was also always in foul trouble and at the top of the list for personal fouls each season. But he was still very talented, and him and Evans were supposed to be the Kings' future. In a few years, they could lead them to the playoffs. But things started to quickly go downhill. Evans started to get injured, and Cousins was a little bit too emotional on the court, which greatly affected his play. That was something that stuck with him for a long time. By the way, the Kings also drafted Hassan Whiteside in the 2nd round of the draft, but back then he was too immature to play in the NBA, so he spent his first few years in the D-League and overseas. In the 2010-11 season, which was Cousins' rookie season, the Kings only won 24 games, and a lot of stuff started to go on behind the scenes. In February 2011, the Kings suspended Cousins for getting into a fight with teammate Dante Green. Cousins was reportedly furious that in the last possession of a previous game, Green inbounded the ball to Evans instead of him. This fight lasted into the locker room and then even onto the team's plane, so Cousins had to be escorted out of there. Yeah, it was a big mess, and in the next couple of years, the tension was still there as the Kings continued to lose. Also, around this time, the owners of the team were the Maloof family. They felt like the team wasn't making any progress as revenue started to plummet. They were 29th in attendance in the 2010 and 2011 seasons, and it didn't look like it was going to get any better. The Maloofs wanted to relocate the team to Anaheim, but the NBA Board of Governors voted against it, which made a lot of Kings fans happy. Unfortunately, their play on the court didn't make anybody happy. In the 2011 draft, the team traded their solid, steady veteran point guard Benno Udrih in a package for Jimmer Fredette, a college senior who had one of the best college careers ever. This move ignited a spark in Sacramento. Jimmer was incredibly popular and the team sold out their first 20 home games. But he wasn't good. Like, at all. And the Kings finished the lockout season winning 22 games. For the next 5 years, the Kings only won more than 30 games in just one season. In the summer of 2013, Evans was traded to New Orleans because he turned out to be very injury prone and he was never able to match his production of his rookie season. But honestly, a lot of that has to do with how the Kings developed him. His natural position is point guard. He plays like a point guard and can pass very well, but the Kings tried playing him as their small forward, which really slowed down his development because, well, he wasn't a small forward and can't defend other small forwards either. They tried to turn him into a catch-and-shoot, off-ball wing player, even though he wasn't a reliable shooter. Through the years, you'll notice a similar trend with all of the players the Kings have drafted. Thomas Robinson, the 5th pick in 2012, became one of the biggest busts ever. Although that was a bad pick to begin with, him and Cousins playing together was a terrible fit. Ben MacLeod, the 7th pick in 2013, who some scouts believed would become the next Ray Allen. He's got the most beautiful jump shot that barely ever goes in, and after 4 years, the Kings gave up on him. Nick Stauskas, the 8th pick in 2014. He was gone after 1 season. Willie Cauley-Stein, the 6th pick in 2015. He's doing okay, but he's nothing special. And he was also 22 years old when he got drafted. Usually you want older rookies to make an immediate impact, and Willie did improve, but he still hasn't made a huge jump. In the 2016 draft, the Kings made a trade to acquire Georgios Papagiannis, who played 38 games before getting waived. In 2017, they got De'Aaron Fox, and I hope he can become their franchise player. I like watching him play. He's pretty much the only reason why I watched a couple of Kings games this past season. Basically, the Kings are not good at developing talents. Those players might have developed better if they were drafted to the Spurs or another organization. Or maybe not. Maybe the Kings just got unlucky for like 6 years in a row, drafting a bunch of busts. On top of all this, the one draft steal they got was Isaiah Thomas, the 60th pick, who looked very promising early on and was also very popular among the fan base. But after 3 seasons, they let him go. And in 2017, Cousins would finally be traded for a package of mediocrity. And now, here we are. Nowadays, the current roster doesn't look promising. If you take a glance at the team, is there any player who you think could become their franchise star? It's too early for Fox, but look at their other young guys. Cauley-Stein, Skal Labissiere, Justin Jackson, Bogdanovic, Buddy Hield, Bruno Caboclo. What about Harry Giles, who looked promising in college? I don't know, I don't see any of them becoming stars, and some of them are already in their mid-20s. I think they gotta bank on Fox developing, or maybe find the next superstar in the draft. Regardless, the Kings are basically back where they started. Ever since they drafted Tyreke Evans, they haven't been going anywhere. It's almost like they've been going through an endless cycle of rebuilding failure. Heck, even the Kings themselves finally realized that their player development staff sucks, so they recently hired a bunch of new people to help train and develop their young players. The combination of bad trades, bad draft picks, bad developments, bad coaching, all of these accumulate to over a decade of rebuilding. Anyway, that's all folks. To be honest, it's sad to see the Kings in this situation. They were one of my favorite teams to watch growing up, and I wish them the best. Do you see them making the playoffs in 2 or 3 years? Alright, I hope y'all enjoyed that video. Thank you everyone so much for watching, and as always, I'll see you next time. Peace.